I'll be starting in a second. I am just I got a fair number of views last time I did this. I hope people enjoyed it. So yeah, I'll be starting here shortly. Hey, what's up? I'm just going to take a look tonight at some free and pay what you want RPGs. I did this a couple weeks ago, and people seem to enjoy it. So I'm going to take a look again at them. And we'll go from there. I know I need to do more RPG reviews in general. My next one, for those who are watching for my RPG reviews, I will be covering Adventurer Conqueror King system next time. And after that, I will be covering Lost City, but I still have to order that one, so it will be a little bit. I know a lot of people will come on for my my computer role-playing game stuff too, but there's no shortage of that. I just have to get it uploaded. So what I did last time was I looked at a series of pay what you want and free offerings from DrivethruRPG. And then I would put the link in the chat, and then at the end I would put the link in the description. So if you're watching this at a later date, it'll be there. I'll probably sit here for a minute or two and shoot the breeze while I see what I'm going to do. I was going to start tonight's stream a little bit earlier, but I just didn't have time. And this is one of the reasons why I don't stream often, is that I can't keep a schedule. That's what it boils down to. If I could keep a schedule, I'd be streaming a lot more of different kinds of stuff. So welcome all. I think what I'm going to do tonight is I've organized. What I've done is I've gone through the selections for this week, just to make sure there's nothing like super questionable within them that's going to get me knocked off YouTube, because, well, at least to my knowledge, because of the way YouTube works nowadays. So I will start with like the simpler, easier to go through ones, and then at the end I'll cover some of the larger ones. These are all either free or pay what you want. And we will start with what's something called the Endless Dungeon. Now, the Endless Dungeon really doesn't have much going for it, but I'm going to cover it for historical purposes only. And this is available for free from DrivethruRPG. I will put the link in the chat here shortly, and you should see it pop up probably a fair amount of time after this actually goes through. Now, you will note the weird, the weird look of it. It is a digital reprint of a classic module. Now, the We Warriors were a group of, I don't know if they were a group so much as a series of modules published back in the days of original D&D. And this one is just like laughably short, and I wouldn't recommend it as your starting point because it's not actually a module. But it's interesting to look for historical purposes. Recently, Precus Intermedia did basically get rights to print them all, and the We Warrior stuff includes some of the first modules ever produced for Dungeons & Dragons by any company, because there was a time where TSR didn't see the value in producing modules back in like 76, 77, so some of these date from then. Now, the Endless Dungeon is not actually a standalone module. As you can see, it is simply 8 pages. And this is effectively the distant precursor to what would eventually become dungeon geomorphs and map tiles. And I will go ahead and page through it, but you've got like a character tracking sheet, which was common back in those days, a very general hex map, which I don't know why it's textured like that. You have a generic hex map, which I find useful because I actually need to print out those and make some actual proper hex maps. See, there's no content in here. It's all like papercraft. It's papercraft stuff. So you've got these, these tiles that you can print out, and you can just fold them and make like little stand-up things. And this was back in, I don't know when this was originally done, but this was done a long time ago. This was done way back when. This will give you the classic reprints line from Precus Intermedia. And especially this Palace of the Vampire Queen, I believe, I'm not 100%, but yeah, it says right here, the first commercially published standalone adventure ever produced for original edition back in 1976. So that's the same people that put this together. There's not much to this module. It's available for free. It's just got a kit with some basic dungeon walls that you can print out and fold, and some trackers and some hex maps. So there's nothing in it. That's why it's available for free. But it's interesting to see from the historical perspective. I do recommend, if you ever get a chance to, check out Palace of the Vampire Queen and the Dwarven Glory. Those were actual proper modules, and it's funny because they're basically randomly stocked dungeons like anybody could do in their household, just produced commercially. That was way back when. And they've been cleaned up over the years and reprinted, so that's what you get. Also, Shatterzone. Oh, wow. They reprinted Shatterzone? Oh, my God. I love Shatterzone. I need to grab that. I'll have to look that one up. Shatterzone is like a sci-fi spaceship combat game. It's actually a full RPG, but I loved the ship-to-ship combat from it more than I loved the actual RPG itself. I need to check that out then. If they've reprinted that, that's worth looking into. All right, so that is our first look, and that is our first one of the night. That's like, okay, simple enough. I have something called a random adventurer here, and this is from This is a good question. This is just one page. Layout and design by Brian Holland. Just using generic artwork. So yeah, this is basically how to quickly generate random adventurers for your people to encounter in a dungeon. It's one page. It's available for free, and I will put this link in there. So we'll get to the complex stuff in a little bit, but this is just like the quick stuff. Yeah, just a series of tables to generate a random adventure. You'd be surprised how often that can come in handy, especially if you don't need a lot of stats, and it's just people that your characters can meet. One table. I've seen this artwork in like a Swords and Wizardry reprint, I think. It's a nice little generic old school artwork. Anyway, I will take a look at... One moment. Sorry, I have. This is another reason why I don't stream, because I have elderly parents that I have to take care of, and they have a very. I tell them to call them in case there's an emergency, like if somebody gets sick or if somebody falls or whatever. Their definition of emergency is extremely loose, so things like the TV is not working, emergency, just as important as. As I said, lighter not working, just as important as somebody falling down, breaking a hip. TV not working, TV may be stuck on Spanish subtitles or something. Just as important as if somebody had like a major emergency. No middle things, But I can't shut the phone off. Anyway, let me get back to my look. Let me get back to my look through here real quick. Micro chat book. These are ones that I've covered before. And I believe it's Animal Companions, this one. Now, there was another one that I was taking a look at. And I actually am not taking a look at it tonight. because I couldn't find it when I went back to look for it. But this is basically another micro chatbook RPG supplement, but this offers animal companions for the micro chatbook stuff. Now, if you're not aware, the micro chatbook RPGs are just little like 3 or 4 page things, and this is available as a pay what you want offering. So this one's not technically free, but you can get it for paying 0. Yeah, I know. I know. Yeah, I'm like, I would love to stream more stuff like live, but I can't do that. Like right now, they've got like this electric lighter, and she like can't figure out how to turn it on, even though I've turned it on like 5 times. I'm like, well, you shouldn't be smoking at your age anyway. But I'll go ahead and do it. But yeah, the micro chatbook stuff is really nice. It's really nice for something real quick, but it also has a very general sameness to it. This is one of the systems that basically expands on what they do with it. They're all solo rules. They're not really like full game rules. So seeing expansions for this is nice. This one basically you get to tame an animal companion during character creation or in between dungeon runs. So it's an expansion on an existing chatbook, and I like the fact that they're putting together an entire system, basically 2 pages at a time. The stats are real basic because everything in micro chatbook RPG is real basic. It's meant to just take a couple dice and play it on the side while you're waiting for like a proper game to play or something. The stats, I'm looking at it, and I know I don't have another micro chatbook stuff pulled up right now, but this looks very much like just standard. It's just like a standard. It's like an expanded weapon chart, except they just renamed them into animals. And do they give you an additional attack? But what do the animals do in it? Using animal commands, they may make attacks in each melee round as per normal rules, including taking damage from its melee. So they act like almost a second character in a system that's designed around one character play. That's neat. That's a nice little expansion. I like to see more solo games with that kind of expansion to them. And I haven't put that yet. I'll put the link to that here. And you can actually check out the other micro chatbook stuff as well through that link. I've got a lot of stuff to cover tonight. Knights and Goblins. I was going to check this one out, but I couldn't find the link I got it from. It's a micro chatbook RPG. Should I show it? I don't even know if it's available anymore. So I'm going to show it, but I don't have a link to it. But we'll show it real quick. And what it is, it's like micro chatbook RPG. And remember when I just said all the micro chatbook RPG stuff is real simple? This is exactly what you see in the single RPG, but this is designed for like a war game. It's a miniatures skirmish war game that can be played solo or with an opponent. And the this is identical, page for page, up until this point, to all the micro chatbook RPG stuff. And then it actually turns into a proper war game. I mean, a very simplified one. Has all of the standard stuff you'd see in a micro chatbook thing. I am very sorry. I do not have the link for this one because when I went to look the link up, I could not find it. I'm going to have to look it up on our DrivethruRPG. I will put a link into the description later on that one. Anyway, those were my simple ones. I've still got a lot to go. A lot to go tonight. So we're going to start taking a look at some of the more complex ones here. Some of the more decent role-playing games, and I'll spend some more time talking about them since they are. We will look at In the Heart of the Delve. This is still relatively simple. I think it's got like 3 sheets. It's available as a pay-what-you-want product. So again, if you want to pay 0, that's fine. If you want to pay what you want, that's fine too. And I actually like that model. I really like that model. It's for stuff that you kind of want to get paid for, but you're not too bothered. Like it would sell for so little that you wouldn't be bothered if you didn't get anything. So I think you actually end up getting a fair amount for that kind of thing. Anyway, In the Heart of the Delve and Dangerous. It's a procedural point crawl adventure engine for exploring a network of interconnected spaces, dungeons basically, space stations or eldritch structures. I have not actually looked really far into this. As I said, most of this stuff is going to be stuff this is my first option on. So what you've got here is an engine to generate connectivity. These rules, oh man, these are a little bit busy for me. There's only one page here, but I've also got 2 other PDFs in this one. So you've got the procedural point crawl dungeon, starting area, which have 3 to 6 exits, and then I guess you roll. Oh no, this is just an overview of the system. This doesn't actually tell you anything. There's a lot of words on here for very little content. I guess this is the basic rules of navigation. It tells you how to navigate. It tells you how to spend points to nudge the outcome of a navigation roll. So you roll 2d6, and I guess you roll on this table, but with some modifiers? No, that's 1d10 plus 1d6 plus modifiers, yeah, to generate the location encounter. So you're basically hopping from hex to hex and then rolling on this table to see what comes up. And this one is set up for one thing, but you can set up other... Yeah, I'm not sure if I like this one. I love simple solo RPGs. Let's take a look at the other... yeah, this is just optional chamber dressing. So it's like too simple to even actually use. Let me take a look. An annotated example of play. Yeah, I'm going to use this as an example of, and I'll put the link. I'll put the link to it just in case. Here you go. Here's the link in the chat. Boom. But this is an example of what I tell people when I review indie role-playing games. I have like a bare minimum of quality before I'll cover it. I don't do what a lot of YouTubers do and cover in like just trash stuff. Unless something is fun enough to play, I just won't cover it. And one of the major complaints that I have whenever I cover an indie role-playing game, and this is like the #1 watch point, is does the rule set read simplistically enough that I can understand it at least in a general form at a glance? And that's an important thing when you're designing a role-playing game. Because I know some people that design role-playing games watch my videos. So even if the couple people who are in watching me live right now don't do that, at least they'll have an idea of things. But one of the things that's important is no matter how simple your rules, you're going to want to explain the rules as if you're explaining them to somebody who doesn't play or who doesn't play any role-playing game, and B, somebody who is kind of an idiot. And I'm not saying that, that you have to aim for that lowest common denominator because you're aiming for that lowest common denominator, but rather that it makes it easier to get into your system. So I looked. This system is 1 page. There are only like 6 rules, and it looks like whoever wrote it had a set of rules in their head, and then maybe didn't write down every single rules. So this looks like it's more for navigation, and then you would use another system on top of it, which I can understand. So yeah, that's a commentary I have on pretty much. But even if you were to use this as like a standalone system, like even if you were just going to use this as a standalone, not like a full role playing game system, but just to generate your dungeon, there's just a lot of this stuff is just telling you to simply add exits and such, in which case it kind of loses the point, So if I was gonna like do a full review, I wouldn't review this because it doesn't meet that bare quality standard. However, it does meet the standard for featuring it on a quick look at a pay what you want / free RPGs. So there is that. The next one I'm going to take a look at is a 5th edition adventure called The Village of Fenwell. It is a pay what you want adventure. As soon as I figure out where I put it. The Village of Fenwell. Alright, here we go. 5th edition. A level 1 to 3 sandbox adventure for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. I love sandbox adventures. I love low-level stuff. So here we go. And as I want to remind you, I have not taken a look. The only thing I've done with these books is to take a look and make sure there's not artwork that's going to get me, in trouble. Okay, let's continue in. Nice font, nice design. You've got your standard OGL disclaimer here. Whoops. You've got author's notes. It's nicely formatted, I'll say that. Pre-game, the group initially arrived at the independent city of Arkansas Rise to be covered in a future supplement. I like that. It ties it in with something, something to be developed in the future. Where they heard tell of the sparsely populated Calavane Valley. Is that Calavane? Is that a typo? No, that's just spelled very oddly. Oh well, go figure. Calavane Valley, just east of the treacherous Etten Pass, nestled between the north and south mountain ridge. The valley is home to a number of small villages and towns, such as the farming village of Fenwell, so this basically covers the area around Fenwell. Things go fine at first, however, the day and a half's travel left. A coordinated group of Etten launch an attack. The group makes it out and into the forest beyond unscathed, but there's no sign of their guide or anyone else to accompany them. With no choice but to follow the road ahead, they make their way to the next village called Fenwell. So they're basically trapped in Fenwell. And this is from Devin. Oh God, I'm not gonna be able to pronounce that. I'm so sorry. Ricunic McKay. Devin McKay. I'll call him Devin McKay. Sorry if I'm assuming it's a him, but Devin is a cool name. Yeah, I'm gonna have to apologize for that. Village of Fenwell. You've got your basic breakdown of the village. A small enough population that you can actually count individual heads. You got Helmbacher's Manor and the Rungroos Tavern. Retired Dwarven Merchant. Do they give stats for the merchant? Probably in the back. Ryan Helmbacher. You got the Rungoose. Robbins General Stores, or just Robbins. Just generic village stuff. Lowing Manor. Who is Lord of the area? This is all very generic village stuff. I like the map. It looks simple and it looks clean, but that's good. It's clearly defined. It's clearly labeled. The only thing I might ask is that is there a map of the village like standalone? No. Okay. So if you're designing an adventure, and this is something I'm doing myself a lot of times, let me take a look at that link real quick, because that link may have... Does that download have... let me take a look at my account real quick. I'm going to look this up in my account, see if they've got separate maps. One of the things I noticed, though, is that... let me take a look. Where is it? The Village of Fenwick. This is all stuff I've got in my library. You're probably seeing... Yeah, there is no, there's just 2 versions of the PDF. And I'm using the latest version. Okay, so... Yeah, that is an issue. That is an issue. One thing I do recommend if you're designing a module and you put a village, like a village map together, or even a background map together, is always put another map that doesn't have your numbers and notations on it. Not so bad for the village, because then you can say number 1 is this, number 2 is that. But when we get to the dungeons, if you put together a map with like this, where it's keyed, try to put a map together that's not keyed. Or sell the map like separate, because what a lot of people do nowadays, especially with the things going on, is they'll play online, and I'll be able to pull like the image right out and then pop it into Photoshop or whatever and straighten it up and then use that as a virtual tabletop map if I was running this online. And a lot of it's just like if you're designing your own module, that helps with a sale. Not critical, but it does help with a sale. We'll take a look at there's all your persons of interest that are in that village. They aren't statted out, but they are given decent backstories. I'm not seeing anything glaring here. It's all very generic, but it's good generic. It's the kind of generic that I love, so I'm not going to get on them. The Wretch. Now, this is interesting. The Wretch, originally Damagen Feats, was a fledgling warlock whose patron turned on him. He now lives in the woods gathering magic and herbs. More than half of his body is severely burned. That's kind of sad. Okay, so then we go into the actual adventure. So once you've gone through the village, if the characters have seen the signs, it's only a matter of a quick look around the small village and asking some of the locals to find Lone's Manor. Knocking on it gets you to Aaron Jeff. Once appraised of his reason for his visit, Arnon, I don't know why I said Aaron, Arnon will close the door, check with the warden, and then lead the characters to Lowen's study. You get your basic introductory text, and they get sent out. Warden mentions the valley has been quiet for years, so you get sent out to... Oh, so the local guard consists of the warden and 3 young would-be guards, good kids but not experienced and stretched thin. 3 days ago, some kobolds killed one, so it's the simplest of plot lines. Kobolds killed their guard. They want you to deal with kobolds. So, trek to the kobold's den is roughly 2 days. Suggested that the characters have kind of the following: a quartet of ogres, or a quartet of kobolds, not ogres, and a pair of wolves. Very simple stuff. They've got the stats right here. It looks like it's all similar to what you see in the monster manual. I do like how they've reprinted it here. I don't know. Yeah, I think that's pretty. I think they're all OGL stuff, so that's good. You got your kobold cavern. We've got things set. It's just a kobold room. It's just a kobold lair. You got a bunch of kobolds led by a hobgoblin that wants to rule this village of like what, 80 people, 90 people. Yeah, it's just your basic kobold thing. Oh, but then you've got a second one. How many adventures are in this? The Vanishing Tower. Warden Long will mention a story of the meeting of the characters. The local drunk Tepner Hall has recently been telling anyone who will buy him a drink at the Gravy Boat Canteen about his recent encounter with a shadowy creature in a vanishing tower. That's nice. Shadow Bear is your main encounter. It's a medium beast CR, it's challenge level 1. Nothing outstanding. Swarm of Rats, challenge level 1-4. Yeah, it's just a tower that phases in and out, which is an incredibly interesting thing to throw at a level 1 character. Or at a group of level 1 characters. I'm actually kind of digging this one. Who's this by again? Let me take a look. Let me pop this open. Here's the link. Let me put the link in chat. Village of Fenwell. This is actually a very solid one. It's Pay What You Want from Atlantic Pen and Paper Games. It looks like it's got 3 stars right now, which I'm not surprised. Not too surprised, because although I say I like this one, I will say that there's like next to no challenge listed in these things. So there is that. Maps are okay. It looks like they were done in maybe Campaign Cartographer. Or Dungenie. I'd have to take a look. I think that might be like Campaign Cartographer or something. We've got, this is all basic stuff. After the tower, you've got an entity shard. What? Okay, so there's some sort of entity in the bottom of the tower that governs the whole thing. The spirit of Esvin Pellegrade. Thanks him for destroying the entity and setting him free. Okay. So then after that, you've got the Forgotten Crypt. I'm assuming it's just a basic crypt crawl. A crypt with a crocodile in it? No, that's on the journey to it. That's what. Okay, that's what I'm saying. So all of these are like mini dungeons within like easy access of this one village. I like that arrangement. The Defiled Burial Mound. It's got to be another one. And they just get more and more intense the further on you get. Cloak of Endarkening. When the command word is spoken, fills a 15-foot standard radius on the wearer with magical darkness for up to 10 minutes. That moves with you. So the thing I think that's funny, but it's like really easy to know where the origin source of like a perfect sphere of darkness is. That's the only reason why I'm not a big fan of having effects move with you. I mean, I could understand if you could move it separately, but otherwise it's like just aim for the center of this sphere, man, because whoever's causing it is there. So yeah, this is actually a pretty... I don't understand why this only has 3 stars. This is actually pretty solid. I would run this for my group. I'm not even joking. And they'd probably think it was an easy adventure. I gotta be honest, they would think it was an easy adventure. I am really hard on my group. You can ask my patrons. Well, my patrons, I don't know. I think they like the challenge rating that I set for them because they do win, but I make them work for it. Yeah, I run 2 games for my patrons. I run a 5th edition campaign that's basically like a sandbox mega dungeon crawl, and then I run a AD&D 2nd edition campaign for them. The Isle of... Oh my god, hold on. There's a way to rotate this. Okay, the Isle of Lateliar. So this tells you where everything is. Why is this an island, though? I thought this was supposed to be a valley, and I need to read the description more. Apparently it's an island. Okay. There you go. Rest in the remote Isle of Lateliar. Several days' journey from the nearest town. That explains it. So yeah, that's a sandbox setting. I like it. I got to give that my stamp of I would cover that if in a proper review. I'm not going to because I just basically reviewed it here, but but I would cover that in a proper review. That looks nice. Next is Descent into the Chasm, which is another pay what you want offering. Let's see what we got here. Descent into the Chasm. Oh, it's one of the Raging Barbarians one. I'm kind of digging this guy's stuff because every single one of these has like an isometric map like you see here, and it's all just a 1-page dungeon, very simple. It looks like you can use it for either 5th edition or old school stuff, just with a bit of adaptation because they don't have any stats in it, and all of the damage that is listed is just so generic that you can use it for any system basically. Well, almost any system. Yeah, 1-page dungeon, and they send you into a chasm. All of the Raging Barbarian stuff is like this. Or Simone Tometa, the Raging Barbarian, 1-page dungeons. So you can run it, you can cover it in a single night. You got your isometric map. You're good to go. I wouldn't say system neutral, but close enough. And the only problem that I have with this stuff is even though I love the presentation, I do wish there were some maps that were like from top down, but I can understand why they're not in there because the whole draw of them is that isometric view. That one, pay what you want, Descent into the Chasm. Raging Barbarian has a bunch of similar products, good enough to grab for a night, and if your people enjoy it, you can then go on and toss a couple bucks their way, or toss a buck or two their way, and it's all in good fun. I encourage more people to put out little 1-page things like that. Maybe don't make it your main bread and butter, but I encourage people to put one-page things like that. I really appreciate it. Dungeon Thief is the next one. Now, Dungeon Thief, I don't like. I'm going to tell you that right now. And I don't like this because I got this because it was billed as a solo role-playing game. A solo play game of timing and treasure. But the problem is that it's literally a game of timing. You have to have a standard deck of playing cards and a digital stopwatch. So you actually have a stopwatch, and you use the playing cards as your random number generator, and apparently the loot deck. Now I will be up front. This is going to color my review of things, it's going to color my look at this system. I don't like games that are based on playing cards, and part of that is because when I'm playing alone, fiddling with a deck of playing cards, at least for me, is more work than fiddling with some dice. I know that your experiences may vary. A lot of people will just keep a pack and just like be able to flip through it real quick, and I completely understand if that suits you better. I'm just not a big fan of using playing cards for Dungeons & Dragons, especially when you have to take out all of the cards of a particular type and then set it up in like 3 different decks or 2 different decks. There's a dungeon deck and a loot deck in this one, and that you just split your one deck into 2, and by then it's like you're taking up a lot of space. You see what I'm saying? And it goes from a simple solo thing you can play on the go to, oh my god, I start needing desk space and such. And if I'm going to need desk space, quite frankly, I'm going to play 4 Against Darkness or something like I have in here somewhere. Yeah, 4 Against Darkness. If I need to take if I'm going to take desk space up, I'm just going to play this. Sorry, I don't care how good your system is. But this one's designed. I do like the premise of this one, because this one's designed not to. This one, you use the stopwatch and cut it exact seconds, and you use that to determine your success or failure. So basically, you try to stop it, and then you look at like the tens play or the tens and the hundreds place, and that tells you how far off. And if you get within 0.25 away from a perfect 0, it's a failure. When you get within 0.25 of a perfect 0 or less, then it's a success, with crits being stopping it exactly on the 0.00. Part of me wants to say that's ingenious, and part of me wants to say that gives a massive advantage to people who aren't old men like me, because I can guarantee you I would never be able to stop a watch like that. But I know some people who can perfect every time, and if you're one of those people, then you could get this thing and just be like, perfect score, perfect score, perfect score every single time. Well, maybe not every single time, but close enough. Yeah, these just basically form loot decks. They tell you how much loot you get. Hearts represent good luck. Immediately flip on another card. Keep doing this until you flip over a non-heart card, and then choose one of the hearts you flipped and put it on top of the discard pile. The rest of the hearts you flip get removed from the game entirely. So this is basically your luck stat. Hearts, and then spades represent monsters. Clubs are the vaults, but are protected by traps. And okay, so it's very, very abstracted. It's very abstracted. You flip a card, you see what the suit is, you do your stopwatch thing, and that tells you if you beat the monster or beat the trap. Not too bad, not too bad. That was what? Dungeon Thief? Dungeon Thief link is right there. Next is Solum Scriptum, and this is where they're starting to get a little bit more complex. Solum Scriptum. I have eyeballed this, but I have not really looked through it, and if I remember right, there was quite a bit of it in here. First thing that got to me was the artwork. Now, Solum Scriptum, I took a look, is a game of letter writing, and this is one of those ones that like takes a premise for role playing, and then just goes wild with it. Very kind of dreary artwork. I like that. It's by Adam Blumenau. Art by Marissa Bruno. Marissa's horror art, and this is very, very like kind of creepy horror art, which I like. So there is that. Shout out to the artwork on this. A letter writing game for 2 or more players. You need something to write with and something to write on. You also need a way to deliver what you write to other players. This reminds me of the one I saw a Kickstarter for the other day, which was Someone is Missing or whatever. I forget the name of it, which was just played via email. This is similar to that, but played with good old like pen and paper. Or you could play it with email, I guess. Dear you, sorry to bother you. I suppose you're looking for someone to speak with. I'm afraid I can't offer much in the way of conversation, but we can communicate this way. Ink on paper travels way better than words on wind. Apologize for the rambling. I don't get much time to write anymore. But you can. You have all the time in the world from what I gather. I can carry your writing to someone else. There's no cost, at least not monetarily. Not that that matters much to you anymore. If you want, because I guess you're supposed to be dead or something, or in a post-apocalyptic place. Don't know. If you want me to deliver your thoughts to someone, then you need to receive that thoughts of another. Sound fair? I'm afraid I can't elaborate further. Very busy. There's countless more like you. Not really like you, mind. I mean others stuck all alone in space and time. I've attached a special stamp for this letter. This is kind of like the intro to a creepypasta. You're stuck in a place in space and time, and then this mysterious courier shows up. If you're interested, fill it out along with any other personal info. It doesn't matter what or how good it is. Show me that you're serious about this, and I'll provide you with instructions in the future. So you basically fill out the personal info, and it doesn't give you any instructions on this because you don't need them, because it's all an interpretive game. Okay. You filled out the stamp. Taking the liberty of posting your stamp was this is where you'll collect your thoughts. Think of it as a one-page autobiography or a character sheet. You've got 4 sections: Haven, World, Hopes, and Despair. Not much, but it's all you need. This is where it tells you what's what. In the Haven section, write down a sentence or phrase that describes it. This is your home, whatever it may be. And it gives you some examples. Stone walls all around me, candles keep the darkness at bay, etc. And so you write basically like the details of your home. Then you write the details of your world. And then you write down 1 despair. It can be anything. I'm sure stuff in the world is getting you down. So it's a horror game. But it's an actual horror game, not freaking White Wolf. This is like an actual horror game because it's all interpretive, and it depends. It looks like you use the writing tools. Yeah, you write a letter talking about your world. And then you exchange the letter with somebody else who's written down entirely different stuff. And then the courier like picks some, or the DM or whatever, or you don't even need a DM for this because you can just exchange the letters. And then it's an exercise in creative writing. Once you've got your first letter, haven't read it, promise, take time to read it over, find what little comfort you can, read it all, put it apart like you did with the other one, find a sentence, a phrase, or clause. Highlight it, underline it, whatever, as long as it gives you hope. Take that hope and mark it down in your stationery. So you grab hope from somebody else's letter. Find another bit, one that eases your despair. Take it and scribble out the despair. So then you cross off the despair. As precious as these letters are, you can only really hold 1 bit of each, so no matter how many words are on it. Even if you find more than 1 bit of hope, just pull 1. So that's your limiting factor of the game. It's okay if you can't find any hope. It's okay if it doesn't ease your despair. Just be on the lookout for these things. And remember, your friend is looking for them as well. Do your best to send it to them in their next letter, and no cheating. And that's it. Remember our arrangement. Give me a letter, and I'll give you in return a few guidelines, though. Try to keep it to 1 letter a day, so it's 1 exchange per round, basically. If you think there's more than 1 friend to send letters to, a name is all I need. So if you've got multiple people, they can be exchanging letters 1 at a time. When your haven is full, open letter 13. When your world is full... Okay, so let's take a look at what happens when your haven is full. I see you've been busy. It looks like you've put all the pieces back together, found all the bits, and firmed up your haven. I'm sure it will keep the world at bay. It has already done so for long. It was good to know your own home. Sorry, there's not more space in your stationery. In times like this, it's at a premium. From now on, whenever you pull a bit of your haven from a letter, instead take that bit and describe why it brings you comfort, then remove despair. If your world is filled up, Next time you send a letter out, look for something different. From now on, whenever you would be adding to your world, take a piece that reminds you what it used to be. Find a happy memory, something from your past, and take that and put in your hope. So that'll build up hope, and the other one reduces despair. What happens if your hope is full? Wait. When your hope is full, do 15, letter 15. So you've decided to leave. So if you get hope, you get to leave. Would you mind giving me that letter, the one you've written all your hopes and dreams on? Consider it a favor. It's you, but it's not you, like an epitaph for you once were. What happens next up to you? Maybe you've got things to fix, people to find. If you want to join our ranks, that's mighty fine. There's so much to learn, etc., etc. So you basically get to go. And then the last one is when your despair is full. So it's come to that then. I'm sorry it's come to this. I hope with a little connection I could make it. Don't despair. Seal up that sweet little letter you've made, the one you spent so long recording yourself on. I'll take it with me. All right. And that's it. There's no instructions on what happens then. But I'm presuming you then have a stack of people at the end of the session who, or this may take multiple sessions because you're writing things out, who have their hope filled and they've left, and who have had their despair filled, and it doesn't like ... It doesn't say what happens to them. Oh well. I think that's neat. I don't think that I could play that more than once or twice, but I would love to play that sometime. And that was Solum Scriptorum. And I will put the link in the chat. And I don't know, did I put that link up there already? No, I did not. Okay. That was Solum Scriptorum. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things left on the list, but I don't know if I'm going to cover all of them. And in fact, I know for a fact I'm not going to cover all of them. But let's look at salt right now. Okay, give me one moment. Okay. Salt is a generic role-playing game, and from the looks of it, it's very generic. The simplest rule set of the world. Considering I just covered like five things that were like 4 pages or less, and this is 18 pages, I don't know if that's true. But this is supposed to be a very generic kind of thing. September 8, 2018, published an article on my blog called Solo RPG, so it is a solo system, I believe. The Short Adventure at Lunchtime project aims to give some keys to players like me. The original article is still available, so their blog is the blog is in the link here. lbrpg.blogspot.com. I don't know. For the record, I've never been to that blog. I have no idea about the content. Don't come screaming at me if it's offensive. Don't come screaming at me if you can't handle it, because I've never looked at it. If you see something offensive online, I recommend that you just don't look at it. Why? I don't even know why I have to say that these days. Too many people see something like offensive and they'll be like, offensive things cannot exist. I'm just like, if you see something that you don't like, don't look at it. Okay. In this book, you will find an ultralight rule system, some toolboxes, but also and above all, my vision of the way of conceiving solo narrations. So it looks like it's going to be a narration-based game. Not my cup of tea, but we'll see. So it is a solo role-playing game. Its mechanics can be easily adapted to play a classic game. Be warned that Salt is designed with the following conditions in mind. Narrative is more important than numbers. Boo! The solo player has little time to play. Well, that's true. Actions resolution is immediate and does not block the unfolding of the story. I like that. The system allows to simulate a complete team. Words, use them. The system allows you to simulate a complete team. There you go. Free editing. I like that part, by the way. So what's this all about? I already done that. Oh, wow. There are a lot of sections for very few pages, and we're already on page 5, and only now does the rule start. Mechanics can be summarized as follows. A single roll. You roll a d20 plus a possible bonus. The character will put his life on the line. The result of the d20 will just determine his destiny. How dare you assume it's going to be a he? Whatever. I'm just joking. I'm just joking. The character will put his life on the line, and the result of d20 will determine his destiny. The other characters will survive no matter what happens and continue their journey to the next scenario. Wow, so it's a single roll. Whoa, that's a single roll failure system. 1 to 7. The action is a total failure. Death is brutal, glorious, and unexpected for the chosen character. I try to bake a cake. Roll a 7. Oh no! Death by horrific cooking accident. Note that in Salt, the action continues all the time. Failure does not stop the narrative. The die is not rolled again. Failure means the price to be paid for passing the test is greater than the expected payoff. It's up to you to judge what happens and to tell the rest. So it doesn't tell you. It's just like, okay, it failed, whatever. Whatever a bonus character may have, a result of 1 or 2 is always a total failure. So there's crit fail on 10% of things. The action is a partial success if it's from 8 to 13. The wound that bleeds, the trap is disabled, the fight is won, but the character who put his life on the line has suffered an injury. Character who receives a second wound dies. So it's a 1 to 7, you die. 8 to 13, you half die. 14 plus, total success. Fight is won without injuries. Action is a success. Test is passed without having to pay a price. The dragon and the lame goblin. But then fighting a lame goblin or a dragon presents the same difficulty. It's not Dungeons & Dragons, thank God. It's a set of rules designed to tell stories. Dungeons & Dragons is primarily a resource management game, which I like, admittedly. I like the resource management. That's why there's so many wandering monsters to weaken the parties, etc. In Salt, you have to ask yourself the following question. Will the encounter with this weak and sick monster bring any value to the story? If not, don't encounter it. You won't have time to play a game at lunchtime if you roll the dice. So this is basically basically rules to tell stories in your head. Creating character creates 2 things, a background and a class or specialty. Background, for the first item, do not hesitate to refer to random tables. They don't provide them, but they say it. You just get a physical trait, a habit, a character trait, a class or specialty. The level 1 warrior adds +1 to dice rolls when fighting. There's nothing defined in here. It's just whatever you want. You get a +1 to something in your class. Very simplistic. Okay. Free magic system. Same spell can be considered minor and major at the same time. Alright, so this is all very simple. It uses the exact same ranges. 1 to 7 failure, 8 to 13 partial, 14 plus total success on spells. And you just make up spells as you go along. And you can get backlash, which is actually like the most complex thing I've seen in here. Magical backlash just basically puts a limit on you. Okay, other uncertain items. Focuses on the rolls are essential to decide with the life or death of the character, and in the case of a closed question, and famous table can be used to work in this just like a narrative yes or no table. So if you need to know whether or not something's in something, then yes or no on that table. And I think that's taken from like Mythic or something similar. I could be wrong. I think I've seen that in Mythic or something similar. As in any role-playing game, challenges make heroes stronger. Normally each game session should allow each character to gain 1 level, but there's one condition. Only characters who have put their lives on the line will be able to advance to the next level. So since it's a narrative game, you can't just be like, oh, my guy goes to the store and he picks up a sandwich. Roll the dice. Yes. Gain a level. They have to put their life on the line. And they get +1 to 1 of each of the 4 skills. Okay. And the skills are really basic ones. They're just combat, stealth, magic, whatever. All right. Scripting tips. This is all writing. This is just writing. This is using oracles to write. Oracles are like random dice tables where you decide what to write next. This is all basic stuff. This is all. If you've ever played, as I said, if you've ever used Mythic, if you've ever used something like that doesn't tell you the details of what happens, but rather like generalities. Like you make up the story and then you roll a die to see what happens. Then there's that. Yeah, this is like creative writing device at this point. Yeah. This is all like basic advice. So yeah, the actual rules of the game are like could have been 1 page. That's not bad. That's not bad. I'm not gonna say I'm gonna like look forward to play it, but it would be a good rules light alternative to, like, as I said, Mythic or whatever. Maybe not as complex. Links in the chat. Next is Incarnate public beta. It's a public beta of an upcoming game. It's got 57 pages, so it's a little bit more complex. The artwork is pleasant. I remember this. The artwork is kind of pleasant. I know some people won't like it, but I kind of like the artwork. Published by Monarch Arts. It's got a setting built in with the rules. So if you don't like that kind of thing, I understand. This is another pay what you want one. It is in public beta. I'm assuming they're going to come up with like a full proper RPG. So let's take a look at it. All of this stuff seems to be background on the setting. And then like halfway through, that's when you start seeing rules. To the Incarnate who holds his text, welcome to the Order. What is an Incarnate? I'm trying to read this real quick. Oh, this is written in oh my god. Oh, okay. I don't mind this normally, but this is like rules written in character, and the reason I don't usually like that is because it's hard to pick out the rules sometimes. So you've got 4 primal elements: typical air, earth, fire, water. Other major contribution was his power scale theory. Akal was a gambler who was prone to many games of chance. This game uses dice of 5 varieties: D4, D6. This is your basic lower 5. Doesn't have D20s. Each character has a range of skill or strength and one of 6 attributes, who range in strength from a D4 to a D12. So it uses like the die step rather than like a flat total. It's not too bad. It's not too bad. I have no idea what this is. Oh, this is the example of play. Okay. So we've got an example of play. It gives you a very simple example, although they still haven't gone over much in terms of the rules. So, and there aren't many listed here. So I guess this is just where you would refer to for help on skill checks. Let's take a look at the world of Incarnate. You got the 4 primal elements of Hayenholm. I have no idea how to pronounce that. These power permeates everything and is most visible in the creatures born with a natural affinity for the elements. These creatures are what we know as incarnates. So if you're playing an incarnate, you're naturally affiliated with one of the 4 elements. Lesser elements come in 2 varieties, physical and metaphysical. A small percentage of creatures born into Hayenholm are born with natural affinity to an element. This includes animals. You gain amazing elemental powers, etc. This gives you an outlook of the land. There's a broken empire. Conclave has been held once every 20 years, in which the inheritors decide who should succeed the emperor and unite the empire. Inheritor kingdoms. These are different kingdoms where you can travel to. I'm presuming that the final thing is going to have more information on this, although it's actually pretty decent amount of information. The Order is an organization of incarnate elders who oversee the resolution of long-term political struggles. So I guess you're an incarnate of the Order. So you play a character who has elemental powers that works for this Order that decides what happens between kingdoms. So basically, you're a member of the evil overlords. And I know they may say, oh, but the Order is good or whatever, but I'm going to read that as evil overlords. Because anytime if you've got 2 people that disagree with you and you impose their will on them, yeah, you're the evil overlord. to that person, at least. So, incarnates and airfolds. That tells you about the incarnates. Tells you their young life. Oh. Give me some crunch. I like this setup so far, except I'm not so sure about having... I would like to know more about the crunch of the system. Okay, so you've got... Every elemental has 2 lesser elements. So there's 4 elements, so there's like 12 in all. So air has lightning as its physical element, and illusion as its metaphysical element. I like how that's split up. Incarnation markings, so you can tell who's using what. Deathless is a term used to describe incarnates that have extended their lifespan by killing other incarnates. So you can kill other incarnates and then take their power. Otherwise, you have a lower life expectancy. Wow, that puts a twist on things. The dark, most incarnates tied to the elements are descendants of the vile incarnation of the light. Other finds them tied to the dark. The dark is theorized to cause the existence of monsters. So there's dark elements. There's death, domination, ruin, and want, as opposed to the light elements, which are classical alchemical ones. Neat. So that gives you your enemies, basically. It gives you your description of the history and stuff. I'm not going to read it. It gives you descriptions of each of the kingdoms. Their ruler, their provinces. So this is all about the individual kingdoms. Ashen Court has their ruler and their provinces. Phalor. Oh, and each of these is associated with a different element. Lemuria, Shadow of the Empire. They got their provinces and their military. Gives you all the details you need to play. Prael, neighboring islands of the Empire. So I guess that's a different land. With a different set of incarnates. Okay. That's actually not bad. I do like the artwork. I do like the art style. I will say that I do like the art style. Not my favorite, but I like it. I like it. And this is like the actual rules. This is where they tell you how to assign stats. Am I missing something here? Is this supposed to remind me of something? I get the feeling I'm supposed to be reminded of like Avatar: The Last Airbender, except I never watched that series. But I get that feel from it. Tell me if I'm wrong. If you've watched that, let me know either in the chat or the comments. But this sounds like a takeoff of Avatar. Yeah, it's a very simplistic system. There's nothing in here that looks like really difficult to understand, and I like that. I'm not taking the time to understand it right now, but it just uses dice steps. And it's got a very, very simple... You get like a power with a type and then a description and then an enemy save. What happens if they save? After finishing a job, each incarnate troop should file an adventure completion form. You detail any powers you have learned from your experience. So you gain a number of focus points to spend on creating a new power. So I guess you assemble power out of the various elemental things. That's neat. I like that. Yeah. Yeah, it seems neat. This does not look like a system I would run, but I get it. You know what I'm saying? I get what they're going for here. I think it needs a little bit of work, but I totally get what they're working for here. Bravo. Good thing. I'm going to put a link to this in the chat. Yeah, I get what they're going for their yeah. So there you go. There's a link to the chat. It's pay what you want. It's in public beta. I gotta assume they're gonna, when they finish the beta, they'll go ahead and put together like a proper book. But yeah, you got you can craft your own abilities. Neat. I love that kind of thing. It can be a little bit difficult to work with, but I love it. I'm not going to bother trying to figure it out, though, because this is an overview, and I've still got a couple more things I want to face. It looks like combat's very abstracted. They got combat zones. They don't have them. They don't have distances listed. They just got like ranged, far, whatever. I kind of like that. If I want a simulationless game, I'd play like Pathfinder or something, or GURPS preferably. This is very abstracted. I can dig that. It's got defense rolls, damage and mortality. You basically take damage, and when it gets to a certain point, so the hit die decreases by size. So you use your hit die to defend, looks like, and then every time you take a wound, your hit dice decreases, and then if it gets below a D4, you die. Neat. And then you've got to fill out paperwork for anything you do. Bureaucracy, a good part of any game. All right. Well, I'm gonna wrap it. I'm not gonna wrap this up. I'm gonna knock this off here. Let me take a look at some of the monsters. Okay, so they've just very, very. Yeah, I'll definitely have to take it. I'll have to take a look. It's on my to watch list. The problem is that a lot of stuff's on my to watch list. I watched the movie. I enjoyed the movie, and I know that people who like Avatar are probably gonna like want to smack me for saying that, but I did enjoy the movie way back when. I mean, I didn't enjoy it on this is a good movie, but I like got what they were going for. But yeah, I'll watch the series. I've heard it's very good, but I've got a lot of stuff. It's like I've got all this stuff on my to-do list and very little time. A lot of what I do nowadays, though, is I will watch it because, let's face it, a lot of the stuff on my to-do list requires you to actually read it because it's in subtitles, but this is in English. So I may throw it on in the background while I write up some reviews in the future. That's generally how I do things. I will definitely have to take a look at that. Yeah, they've got like the entire countries laid out there. Yeah, neat. Okay, so I'm gonna get to the next one. I'm gonna get to the next one. I like this one, though. I like this. Mika Brogan, designed by Mika Brogan, written by Mika Brogan. I love when they do that. It's just like one person all the way down. Editing by Mika Brogan. And never edit your own stuff, by the way. Pass it over, but never use your own never use yourself as your final editor. I learned that by I have written a few books, and I will put further like if I write any more books, I'll probably promote them on the channel. But I have written a few books in the past, and I can tell you, the ones that I edited myself, they're the ones that sucked. Yeah, I'll probably really like the series if I enjoyed the movie. Next is, I've got In the Face of Death listed next. That is a Palladium system one. I'm going to skip that. Oh, I guess I'm not going to skip that. I'm going to take a look at it. Sneak preview of Palladium Books presents In the Face of Death, a Dead Rain source book. So I have not played Dead Rain, but this looks like a standard Palladium system one. And I haven't played recent stuff, but this is basically zombies. It's like I gotta be straight up. I hate zombie crawl games. I hate zombie type movies and fiction and stuff. I just don't like it. And that mostly comes from the fact that when I want to do zombies, I want to do like fantasy zombies and not like plague zombies. So In the Face of Death is a source book for the Dead Rain zombie role-playing game. Dead Rain zombie role-playing game is it's just your standard Palladium role-playing game. I don't know when it was made. So this tells you about rethinking. That gives you. It just gives you a lot of considerations and then some optional stuff, I think. Yeah, I'm gonna skim through this. I'm not gonna go in depth on this one. I'm gonna skim through this. It's got okay art. You sometimes hear people say that zombie games are too limited and get boring quickly. Like, yes, zombie games flat out are too limited, and they get really boring really quickly. I'll say it. Only if you let yourself get trapped in a tiny box where all you, the players, do is fight the same old basic zombies and scavenge for supplies. Well, yeah, but if you're not doing that, then you're playing another type of game. Although it does go into the various things. Goes into the background of it. And this basically compares it to a classic fantasy player group. And I guess that's one of the reasons why I say I would like to play. Like, the only kind of zombie stuff I would like isn't a classic fantasy one. And I guess mostly that's because once the zombie apocalypse is done in a fantasy game, you can do other fantasy stuff. Rather than just sit there and build stuff. And to be honest, it's not that far off from like just life in a classic fantasy type thing. I gotta start using my new mic soon. Oops. Let me get that out of the way for now, though. Like a fantasy setting, the player group travels from one place to the other, and if all these there's comparisons to fantasy settings. But if there's that many comparisons to fantasy settings, then why not just play a fantasy setting? Want a dungeon crawl or underground military compounds? Yeah, okay. So this man, they spend like hold on a second. They spend like how many pages? Looks like they spend like 2 or 3 pages trying to sell you on the idea of a zombie game if you already play fantasy role-playing games. That is funny. That is straight up funny. And I'm going to completely disregard it. I'm gonna stick with my pre-existing preconceptions, and I'm gonna be closed-minded and just completely disregard the 3 pages that the author went through to try to convince me to run a zombie game. Oh God. Treasure or reward. This is all very just information about how to run a zombie game. And 90% of it looks to be just like run it like a medieval role-playing game. Well, okay, I'll just play a medieval role-playing game. I do like the artwork. They're still going on about it. Look, the bottom line is that almost any type of adventure. This is 12 pages in. Now, this is 13 pages in. I don't count the title. This is a dozen pages in, and they're still trying to sell me on running a Dead Rain game. And this isn't a supplement to the game that you would not purchase. Yeah, this is a supplement for a this is a supplement for a system that spends a dozen pages trying to convince you to play a game based on the system that it's a supplement for. I get you with the zombies. I have done zombie stuff in fantasy role-playing games. I've done like zombie horde stuff in fantasy role-playing games 3 times. And in 2 of those times, I did manage to intimidate the party to a point, simply because I'm not afraid to throw obscene amounts of monsters at people. The Pathfinder role-playing game, I had it. They were a group. They learned about some zombies in like a quarry, and they got to the quarry expecting to see like a couple dozen zombies. So I was like, you look down over the quarry ledge, and there are 500 zombies down there. And they were like, whoa, I was not expecting that many. Because you start throwing that many things at somebody, they're going to like get taken aback. That worked. At least it worked until they decided to run into the thing after... well, it worked. At first, they started throwing some boulders down into it. And I should really make an RPG story time of this. I really need to bring that series back. I'll do some more RPG story times. I'll probably put this one in. But they basically pushed some boulders down and crushed a bunch of these hundreds of zombies in the quarry. But there were still like hundreds left. So instead of... I expected them to run away and regroup and plan. But instead what they did was they dug themselves into a tunnel and basically just hack and slash the zombies in the limited tunnel. And I was like, don't do this, please. But they did it anyway. But up until they pulled that BS, they were intimidated. The other zombie intimidation thing I did was in a Ravenloft game, and that was mostly because it was Ravenloft, and they were dealing with zombies that they could not see correctly. And it's not because they were invisible; it's because it was like a misty night and stuff was coming out of the stuff. Yeah, and a lot of people get that same feel from like The Walking Dead and stuff. I can't it's the same reason I can't handle zombie fiction. It's not because it's gross or anything. It's just boring after a while. And there's some new spins on it from time to time, but those new spins are so far and few between that it's just almost not worth watching through it. Yeah, but this just does the whole gross thing. Gives you variations on zombies. This supplement. This has turned less into me looking at this as a RPG supplement, more to me complaining about zombie movies. Zombie villains and OCCs by Sourcebook. So, yeah, they got different source books for the Dead. No, they've got, I guess, different games. Dead Rain RPG Zombies. This is all source. This is a source book of references to other source books. What is it even? Is this supposed to be? Okay, so it's got some guidelines and some background that you can use. See, that's what I'm talking about. If you're going to face your players with zombies, you need something like that. Don't just throw a couple dozen zombies at them. Throw zombies as far as the eye can see, and then when they're done carving through a few hundred, move on to something more interesting. Like anything. Anyway, I need to stop ranting about zombies. Let's finish looking at this book. Yeah, this is just an ideas book. This book spends a quarter of it trying to convince you to play a zombie game, and then like half of it on like very typical zombie scenarios that they told you not to do in the introduction that's trying to get you to play a zombie game. It does have good concerns to think about, like water purification, finding drinking water and food, that sort of thing. Growing crops. Okay. I'm not a big fan of Palladium stuff, not because I don't like the system, but I just get a hard time have a hard time really getting into it. I played Palladium games back in the 90s, and it looks like they're still using a very similar system. It's like I can't tell you off the bat what these things mean, but I remember seeing these. So I'm pretty sure with like about 10 minutes of brush up, I could probably jump back into the system. Okay, rifts. I'm gonna, and this is the end of the system. Anyway, that's In the Face of Death. I'll link it, but there was no crunch in there was crunch in that. There was like about 2 pages of stats, and they were like just 2 lines. I don't know. It doesn't look like it's an older book. That's the thing. Let me take a look. It's a sneak preview. That's what got me. I looked at it and I was like, wait a minute. Is that a new system? This is a sneak preview of the In the Face of Death for the Dead Rain RPG that will be available in June 20. No, so it's a new book. It's a new book. I guess if you like Dead Rain, then it's good. Here, let me get the link for it real quick. It is free. It's not pay what you want. It's free, and it's just a sneak preview. And I guess, yeah. That one's just it's an upcoming book. It's a sneak preview of an upcoming book. I guess if you're into the game, it's good. But I guess it's like, see, that's the problem when I look at some of these supplements. It's like if I picked any random supplement for one of these systems, some systems have better supplements than others. If I picked a random supplement from like first edition AD&D, it would be like nothing but crunch. If I picked a random supplement from, say, third edition D&D, it would be a lot of like crunch and background. If I pick some White Wolf game crunch from material from the old days, that's got a lot more. That's a lot more in the style of what we just looked at, where it's got a lot of background and stuff with very little crunch, which is okay, I guess. But when you spend a quarter of the book telling people not to run RPG, not to run a zombie RPG this way, and then spend the rest of the book telling them to do that, okay, let's take a look at the chat. Are players supposed to play against each other in White Wolf games like Vampire the Masquerade? Yes and no. It depends on the chronicle. I was never a big fan of Vampire the Masquerade in those books. The story goes that I've got all of them from the 90s because I happen to be the only DM, and there happened to be a couple attractive girls that wanted me to run the game, so I said, sure. But yeah, yes and no. Some scenarios do encourage players to work together. Some are more political scenarios, in which case they may go against each other. And one of the challenges I do like with the White Wolf system is that you've got a disparate party who may have multiple like differing goals. And the idea is to get them to work together despite those goals against something else. And it can be neat if it's done right that way. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I think old Palladium is coming. I think they're putting out some other stuff that sounds like old Palladium. But yeah, White Wolf stuff, you can play it together or you can play it against each other. It all depends on the chronicle. It's built to support both. That's one of the few things I like about it. That's one of the few things I like about the game. I've got two more things on the list for tonight. Both of them are pretty big. One of them is a quote-unquote quick start guide, and I think it's like 400 pages. Some quick start guide, huh? Let me take a look at this. No, it's 96 pages. The other one's 400 pages. Jesus. All right. This one, Heroes and Hardships, a D20 dice pool RPG system. I gotta be honest, I like the art. When I looked at this, like the title and the artwork just really like kicked in, and I saw that and I was like, okay, I gotta take a look at this. Have I taken a look at this? No, I put it on my hard drive and it sat there for a week and a half. So let's take a look at this. It's a basic role-playing game system. It looks different from other role-playing systems I've seen. It is what let me take a look at this. Let me take a look at the page. It is Pay What You Want. It is from Earl of Fife Games. Earl of Fife Games has some other material for other systems. It looks like they mostly produce other material to use with other systems. I'm seeing basic role-playing. I'm seeing Stars Without Number. I'm seeing Demon Gate, Old School Essentials, that sort of thing. So it looks like Heroes and Hardships may be like maybe their first attempt at making like an independent role-playing game. And I can respect that. So I'm going to try and give it a fair shake and not spend all my time like bitching and moaning about something else. Unless I decide to start bitching and moaning about something else. In which case you can call me a liar. And I will accept that. Okay, it was produced 2019 to 2020. Yeah, I need to review basic role playing game sometime. And yeah, White Wolf's not my favorite system. I got some people that play White Wolf that I love to death, but I would not play a White Wolf system if you like wrangled me into it. I'm sorry. It's just there are some systems where like the fan base is really hit or miss, and I can see that. And I got to be honest, I have played White Wolf in the past with other things, and I am one of those players that does horror stories. I am one of those players that would produce a horror story for somebody. I have a couple stories about my playing in White Wolf game, just a couple because I've only played a couple different games that would be worthy of an RPG story time if they weren't over in like 5 seconds, because that's how my experience tend to be with them. Okay, let me stop bitching and moaning about something else and get on to Heroes and Hardship. Heroes and Hardship is a culmination of many years of experience, so it's somebody's heartbreak game, I guess. I hate that term. I can see where it comes from, but I hate that term. Uses a D20 dice pool system that powers it. Uses standard character creation, deadly combat. I like that. Skills and abilities to overcome most obstacles. Terrible wounds suffered through perilous adventures. Love those sorts of systems. This is how you write an introduction. You give them an introduction. You give them a quick synopsis of the game, and then you move on. Really good design principles. Included in the core rulebook. Mental horrors and traumas. Many abilities, skills, and combat actions, magic, travel rules, mass combat, social combat, and character advancement, all in the core system. Ancestry templates. I've got a whole spiel on people using ancestry versus racial like ancestry versus race that I could go on to, and it would probably get me banned from YouTube. Suffice to say, I don't like people using it. I don't like the way they switched it because it reminds me of certain things that are probably counter to what they were intending. Because let's just say that whoever made that change didn't know what the hell they were talking about, and it got real popular, and now you can't say anything against it without sounding pretty terrible. So I'll leave it at that. So I'll just call them ancestries. Sure, why not? Sure, why not? Traveler and Cypher. I've heard really good things about Traveler, and I want to cover more Cypher System in my RPG news roundups. I need to start covering that more often because I see all this stuff for Cypher System, and I didn't realize it was as popular as it was. So I will probably start covering a few more of those releases. To play Heroes in Hardship, you will need a handful of 10-sided dice. We suggest each player has 8 to 10 dice. Not bad. Dice requirement keeps the game's power level increases, to keep that in mind. Dice can also be used to track AP positions in the combat track. So it uses like a combat track. Okay. And action points, supposedly. Basics is full of what we call subsystems, which is good. Subsystems are derived from the base system that powers the game as a whole. You will not find... And remember, this is a quick start, so it's not going to have everything. So this is going to be like your basic, like what you need to get started kind of thing. It does not use hit points. There's no pool of numbers that represent a character's overall health. They determine the effect by wounds. So you get injured and wound, and they're individual things. I kind of like that. I do kind of like that, although it can run into like a wound death spiral. So a lot of people complain about that kind of thing. I just say learn to play a game, man. Because I can tell you right now, it's like when I'm playing Battle Brothers. I know, completely unrelated computer role-playing game. You just have to know when to drag people out when they get too wounded to continue. You got to learn when to fold them and learn when to run away, man. Rest in peace, man. Rest in peace. Anyway, no waiting your turn to do murder. It attempts to blend realism within the game. Consider combat. Combatants perform actions, and those actions take time to complete. So it uses an AP system. That sounds like it would be complex to track, but at the same time, that sounds like it would be kind of awesome. Once they complete an action, then they do something else, and then the order is depending on the length of time each action takes. I actually kind of really like that. Chapter 1, the system. Rolling dice, skill/attribute. The skill indicates what skill and attribute make up the roll. This may also be expressed as a skill check. Stores dexterity to roll the source skill along with the dexterity attribute. So how does it work? This indicates how many dice are being rolled and how many are being kept. So roll 6, keep 3. Means roll 6 10-sided dice, keep the 3 highest of them. Total the dice you keep. The first thing, I don't know, that sounds a little bit complex, but I think I see where they're going for it, because it says determine what skill is being rolled, determine the associated attribute, add the attribute score and the skill rank to determine the amount of rolled dice. So that tells you your dice pool. Add an additional rolled dice for each benefit added to the check, which I'm assuming is like advantage. And then once the dice pool has been created, determine the amount of kept dice. Determine the kept dice, determine the associated attribute, subtract any kept dice for each hardship added to the check. Benefits and hardships grant bonuses or penalties on rolls. Various situations may call for a benefit, hardship, or both. When a benefit is applied, add another die. When hardship is applied, roll all dice as normal, but keep one less die. So you're always going to roll more than you use, because every dice pool is made up of the attribute plus a skill rank. And then you're only going to keep the associated attributes worth of dice if you have no benefits and hardships. So almost every time you'll always add more dice than you roll. I like this. I do like this. I like this idea. This kind of vaguely reminds me of the Modifius 2d20 system, except I want to say good, but I'll have to reserve my judgment on that. Dice pool may have a hardship added when there's only one kept die. This would lower the pool to 0. Whenever the situation duel occurs, apply the rule of 1, and you must have at least 1 die in the pool, even if the hardship says don't have any die. So that's good. That gives you that means you will never have no chance to properly do the trick. Did I put the link for this down? No, I didn't. Let me put the link in the chat real quick before I go on. I will put the link in the chat real quick. It is Heroes and Hardships. There you go. There you go. Yeah. Unopposed skill checks. When you make rolls against challenges or not directly opposed to another entity, they are considered to be unopposed. Unopposed checks must be equal to or greater than a target number set by the GM. So it's got target numbers in the case it's not challenged. Each game is assigned a power level. The power level represents how powerful characters are and how difficult challenges can be. The only difficult challenges require a skill check, average or easy. So as you gain in level, I don't know if there's levels in this game, but as your characters become more powerful, apparently the entire game gains a power level, and then certain challenges automatically fall off the radar. That's a neat way of looking at things. That's like it's like in D&D if you were like level 20, and then the rogue would no longer have to worry about rolling to sneak past like goblins or orcs or whatever. Challenging, difficult, desperate, and impossible. And there'll be more power levels in the core rulebook when it's out. In a power level 1 game, a GM calls for a challenging skill check. Player makes a skill check for athletic strength. Their pool is 4 roll, keep 2, and they roll. Their 4 dice are 6, 4, 3, and 8. They keep 6 and 8. That's 14. The 14 equals the required challenge rating of TN of 14 for a power level 1 game, so they succeed. Okay. Okay, and I like how they've got them spelled out that way. Nice. Okay, the player, Brandon, rolls a courage willpower check against a NPC's intimidation presence skill check. They roll a 9. The GM rolls a 12 for the NPC. Okay. And then you've got a level of success roll, so it's not just binary success. It gives you levels. Skill check of 11 against a TN of 14. So you just basically subtract the number you fail by to give you the level of failure. Or you subtract the number you succeed by, or you figure that out, and that's your level of success. It does have static mods. Let's take a look on. Gives you an example. It's got exploding dice. D10. Boom. You roll another one and add it. Nice. But does it count as 1 die? Let's look at the example. The 10 explodes and it rolls again. The next result is also a 10, so they roll once more. The last is 1. So total the first 3 as normal for sum of 23. Then they add the exploding dice totals for total skill check of 34. Okay. So yeah, it all counts as 1 die. Nice. So that 1 exploding die counts as all 1 die. Interesting. Okay. Let's take a look. Character creation. You roll for attributes. Order of attributes are physical, mental, social, and fate. And then each one has, except for fate, has 4 substats. Okay. It's not too bad. No, they don't have 4 substats. That's just an example of what's included in one stat. No. Those are 4 different stats. There's just physical is the category. Okay. I'm sorry. I'll get there. I'll get there. I promise. Yeah, it looks like so. Yeah, you get dice pool you get a dice pool 6 die, and it says you keep 3. So you roll the 6 die. And 1 explodes, so you get however much that adds up to, and you keep that all as 1 die, and then you add the other 2, and boom, you got it. You got your total. And due to the way I'm getting the idea that seems like it would make for very. They said they deadly combat if you get exploding dice and levels of success on a combat roll. I strongly suspect that allows for like one shot kills, maybe. We'll have to take a look. Okay. Give me a second. I just got messaged on something. Okay, free attribute points. Players are given 1 free attribute point to add to their attributes while adhering to the following rules. You may add 1 attribute point after flipping it if... okay, I skipped something. Determine attributes. Just gives you a lot of flexibility as a GM to decide what to give them. Self-determination and interest can help develop attributes through training. You may flip 2 attribute rolls of your choice. What does it tell you what flip means? Oh, that just swapped it. So, yeah, okay, here we go. So if you rolled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, there's 12 stats and then fate. And if you decide to switch to, you can. You may add 1 point to any attribute after flipping if an attribute flip is completed. The maximum value for an attribute is 4 for power level 1 characters, and if you've got higher power level... so it doesn't progress through the game. It's up to the GM to decide what power level the game is. And that affects like everything else in kind of a cascading way. Neat. Skills are rated from 0 to 10. You do not roll for those, you simply assign those. Spend skill points. Okay, so yeah, it's just increasing costs on buying skill points. All right, that's all very basic. It's very similar to other RPGs I've seen. You can gain ability points. Abilities and flaws. You can gain ability points. Add your physical skill ranks together. These include any skills within. You gain that many ability points you can spend on physical abilities during character creation. And abilities are what? Are they like actual... So you get an ability point pool that is based on your stats and your skills that you've already determined in each characteristic. Jared has 9 physical ability points. Hey, Jared. He wants to purchase the ability Easy to Heal, which costs 3 to purchase. So, yeah, okay. So it's basically like almost like GURPS abilities that you spend points for, but the points that you get aren't based on character advancement. They're, or at least not at first. They're based on your stats that you've already rolled. So it looks like you could actually have a vastly different level of ability on each character. That seems really unfair, and I like it. And then you get a background with a career, give you wealth and equipment. The career gives you one mechanical benefit in relation to the career skill. The career skill is a catch-all knowledge skill related to the character's career. So like many other games, backgrounds just gives you, like, you know how to do things related to your career. I like that. Flaws and ancestries. Ancestries are what's commonly called races. Core rulebook. Many popular ancestries will be included. Character creation summary. Okay, this just gives you your character creation. Okay, not too bad. Determine the power level as a GM. This is what you do if you're the GM. And this is an example of character creation. I like the artwork. The artwork seems to indicate this is a multi-genre system, and I think that was listed in this. Let me take a look. It is it gives you can use it in a number of different settings. So it is not just simply medieval fantasy. It is like everything. It's a multi-genre general system. Okay, I've already been through this. Attributes. It gives you the example. I'm going to skim over this. This just gives you the list of attributes. This gives you the list of skills, what you can do with each skill, and I believe, what attribute they're associated with. And examples of using some of them. It looks like the skills list is pretty extensive. I can dig that. It doesn't give you any specific examples of stuff like you'd see in GURPS. So a lot of that seems to be narrative based. At least so far. So this seems like a really high-end crunch, but then it falls apart into narrative systems, which I can deal with. Physical abilities, on the other hand, gives you very specific kinds of like actual abilities, like moves that you can use. Like a lethal weapon, you are able to use a weapon to its maximum potential. Add to the post-roll modifier of a weapon of your choice. Yeah, this is all basically like what you'd say are feats or moves in other games. Combat basics. Combat's going to be a little bit interesting. Give me a second here, real quick. I'm gonna type something in. Sorry, somebody messaged me. I had to answer them. Combat basics. They're used in scenes. There's no rounds because, as mentioned earlier, and I can see that there's no rounds. So because it uses action points, it's got to be a pain to keep track of. But I feel like if you had like a constant track, you could do it no problem. Characters coming to quicker actions will act more often and possibly interrupt slower actions. I like that as well. So it would behoove you to play a really quick character in this game. Action points take 1 second to complete. Initiative. When combat starts, each character makes an initiative roll, and if determined by reaction skill check, each character makes their first action in order based on their initiative rank. And then after that, you stick it on a combat track. This roll affects the first turn only. Any subsequent actions orders based on the character's AP rank. Character chooses their character action. They note the AP cost of the action. When performing the action, they move down the combat track the number of APs that action costs. When initial actions are complete, all AP ranks are compared. The character with the lowest AP rank goes first. If there's a tie, the character with the highest initiative goes first. So you do keep that initiative at the beginning, just in case there's a tie later on. Actions will continuously push AP ranks past the characters on the combat track. Okay, tracking AP. There's no way that you can track AP at the table. All characters' AP must be visible to every person on the table. This is basically like if you ever played like a turn-based, or if you ever played a action-based strategy role-playing game where they give you a list of characters in like a turn queue up at top. This is basically the hand version of that. You got to figure it out by hand. I would just make like a RPG, like a computer RPG based like actual track where I just like shuffle people's characters around on it. Okay. Okay, attacking. A player wishes their character to attack must determine what kind of action they use. Offensive action and skill chosen for the dice pool. Makes a skill check. The total of the skill is the base attack value, and then you get hit locations based on the rightmost digit of the base attack value. So it doesn't matter what the basic attack value is; it's only the one digit that determines where it was, and that's how you determine individual rules. Okay. Oh my God, this looks a little bit complex, but I think this looks like a complex system that in practice looks like it would run pretty quick, because what I'm seeing here is a very high degree of internal consistency. And this is another thing that I mentioned when I review independent role-playing games. I love internal consistency because it means that you can pretty much guess what's going on in other rule sets or in other subsets of the rules by how consistent the rules are. Now, the only problem I'm seeing here is that these is that you're going to have to learn range adjustments to various things. Wounds and injuries. The wound is taken as a TSV meets or exceeds the wound level of a target. You get wounds. Yeah. I'm not gonna go seriously in depth from now on. Wounds are abstracted, but they're given a number. So you don't have like a particular gash on your arm. You've just got like an injury level 2 on your arm, wound level 2 on your arm. So yeah, okay, that makes it applicable to a whole bunch of things. Engagement to melee combat, multiple opponents. You got distance. There are 2 types of distance units. So it does have hex grid. It's used as a hex grid for tactical combat. Okay, this is getting into GURPS territory, man. This is like a simple this sounds like GURPS. This is like GURPS with different math. and I'm saying that, but I love GURPS. But do I play GURPS a lot? No, I don't play GURPS a lot because I can't get anybody to play it. But this sounds like GURPS with different math. And GURPS has a hit point system. This one has a particular wound system. I like the art. All right. Well, let me go on. This is the quick start guide. This is a quick start guide. All right. They do have head wound effects. Oh my God. You get different effects from different types of torso wounds, but they're just determined randomly. Okay, my bad. You do have different types of effects. All right, different combat actions. This is just tells you how many action points each individual thing takes. This is like when you're playing Fallout, or you're playing like Dungeon Rats or something, and you click on the bottom and you cycle through the different types of fire modes and different types of actions that your character can do, and that's how many action points it takes. So this is like manually doing that. I gotta say that I admire the concept. You're going to jail. Who would play something like that? You got this cyborg chick and this dude that looks like a reject space marine, and then you got like this Ellen from Final Fantasy 14 or whatever. What kind of person would play that? I get that they're yeah, but that's what I'm saying, man. You know, you say that, but there aren't actually that many charts that I'm seeing. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of stuff in the individual like point values and stuff. I'm willing to bet that they could all be listed on a single table, but you'd have to memorize what each one does. Equipment. Let's see how effective. Okay, they got qualities of equipment just like they got in Modiphius. Got rate of fire. Alright. Oh my god! Look at this. Look at this. Okay, so each weapon has a different damage... has 4 different damage types because there's an other column. So let's say your dagger does 2 piercing and 2 slashing. And then your short sword does 3 slashing and 1 piercing. Oh my god. Yeah, you would need a 6-panel GM thing to keep track of all this. Armor reduction. Each piece of armor has 4 aspects that defend against different types. So using one... I do like when systems try to give you different advantages for using different types of weapons against different types of armor. I will say that I like that. I will also say that I don't enjoy keeping track of that. But I do like... I like that an attempt is made. They've got... they just go over medieval armor. They don't go over the modern stuff. Spending fate points. Fate points adds a benefit to a roll. Okay. Fate points seems like it's lifted almost directly from Modiphius, except maybe not. Minions are NPCs that can offer a threat to full PCs and NPCs but cannot withstand many wounds. So I got the minions idea from like 4th edition D&D. This seems like it's like a grab bag of different ideas from different systems. It's like I can see... It's like I can see the designers had all like basically laid out all their books on a table, and were like, I like this, I like this, I like this, and oh, I like playing that video game, so I like that, and built a system around it. But I will give them props. It is internally consistent. We're almost done with this. It's just creatures and then the index. Yeah, so that was Heroes in Hardships Quick Start Guide. I put the link already up there. It is available on a pay-what-you-want basis. And I don't know whether they have a full, like the full thing yet. I kind of like it. I wouldn't run it, but I do kind of like it. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, I've got one more thing on the list to look at today. And I got to be honest, I was not even sure what I was going to look at. I'm not going to be able to look at the whole thing. And I will tell you why. You know how I said I go through there and there's artwork just to make sure that nothing's going to get me kicked off YouTube? This one's got fantasy artwork that has... later in the book that has like things that will get this video like demonetized or whatever, which is not a problem, except that when it's demonetized then nobody watches it because it doesn't promote it. And it's nothing major. It's just like if you picked up the Dungeon Master's Guide or the Monster Manual from 1st edition AD&D, you'd see something similar. So it's not like explicit stuff. It's just like, oh, boobs. But I will take a look at the beginning of it. It's called Tales of the Elder Days, and the full rules. It is pay what you want, digital edition. It is from Moss Games, and it is 3 stars, and it's 400 pages. This is the 400-page one. Nah, Chalt, man. I already reviewed Chalt. I liked Chalt. I got some crap for that because that dude... I could go on a spiel. I'm not going to go on a spiel. Let's say that when I wrote that review, I knew somebody would come up and like complain about me reviewing it, and within 6 hours somebody had. But yeah, this is Tales from the Elder Days, a fantasy role-playing game by Samuel A. Mossman. So you know what I'm talking about. I'm just going to look at the overall stuff. I'm not going to get real into it. No, seriously, on the chart stuff. Yeah, it's like, dude, I don't have to agree with them. Let me put it this way: I can't tell you whether or not I agree with Wenger on stuff because I don't want to bring politics into this channel. But I will say this: there are some people whose games that I know that if I review, I am going to get feedback. I'm going to get negative feedback from people before I even do the review. Adventure Conquer King system is another one that I'm going to get some kickback for reviewing, and I am going to review it. I'm not going to get into the politics of the dudes involved. I'm not going to get into what I think about them. Because if I got into that, I would probably lose half of my existing subscribers, maybe more, no matter which side I picked. And quite frankly, I don't want to risk it with YouTube doing what it is right now. Consider my voice silenced by the eggshells I have to walk on around YouTube. And I'm not going to tell you who I agree with and who I disagree with. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But there are certain things that I guarantee you somebody's going to chime in, even though I don't say whether or not I agree with somebody. And they're going to chime in based on that person's politics on the system that I review. And you've seen my reviews. I almost guarantee anyone in this chat can go watch my reviews. I look at the system. I go in and I do a summary of the system, and I give you my analysis of the system, how it would do, and then that's that. It's the straight talk from the RPG crawler, and that's all I do. And then I know somebody's going to kick up and complain, and I kind of run like little bets in the back of my mind saying, hey, how long until somebody kicks in? I've got a channel with maybe 3,000. I've got like 3,000 subscribers, of which half watch for my computer gaming, half watch for my tabletop content. 10% of the people interested in any one video will watch it. So that means I've got 1,000 people I've got like 1,500 people that are interested in my tabletop content. That means my tabletop reviews will get a maximum of 150 views. Some get a little bit higher, I will admit, but I get average about 150 views on my tabletop stuff. And that I'm like small potatoes. Why come whine in my in my content section on something, you know? All I'm doing is review games. Let's get back to this. Because I'm kind of mixed on this. The reason I looked at this is because I like some of the artwork, and it seems nice and interesting. Welcome to Tales of the Elder Days. Herein you will find fantasy role-playing to bring epic roles of adventure to life as a game player. Is this another system generic one? Pen and paper fantasy role-playing game. So it's just generally fantasy. It's meant to cover all kinds of genres within fantasy and from one shot to lengthy campaigns. It's your basic dice role-playing game. I do like that they've got consideration for people new to role-playing games. So far, things look clear and concise. It uses your standard polyhedral dice up to D100. Very standard. If you like to use miniatures, you can. 1 inch equals 5 foot square. That's common, so they're going with that. Very easy to get into. What's next up to you? Those that share your gaming table with. The rules provided here should accommodate a variety of styles of play. I like that. It's looking to be very generic fantasy. In the end, and this goes without saying, and I want to say this, because this bears repeating, and I like they put it in there. In the end, when all is said and done, the point of any role-playing game is really about having a good time. That is the number one rule for everything. I get kickback from OSR people that because I'm open on stuff. Even Gygax himself was saying basically the idea of the rules is to have a good time. That's more important than anything else. Yeah, I want to play Castles and Crusades, but I look. You see this right here? Oh, I don't have Castles and Crusades on my bookshelf right now because I was actively reading it to do something. I've got something. I've got like the Monster Guide. I'm going to review Castles and Crusades pretty soon. I want to run it, but none of my current players will play it because they don't want to learn a new system. I love Castles and Crusades, though. I just can't run it. I will say this, the editing in Castles and Crusades books sucks, though. They need a new editor. I see typos and stuff that have survived through like 5 to 6 printings. That shouldn't happen. Okay, heroes, characters, you get stats. Might, prowess, intellect, presence, insight. So you've got 5 that are not your basic 6. I can appreciate that. Stats of 5 or more represents the upper limits of the human ability, so it's all low stats. Gives you an example of the stats. Yeah, I'd love to, but I barely have time for the games I run now, man. Yeah, I barely have time. It's like I'm falling so far behind on my channel just because of my overall schedule. I would love to play more games, but I barely even have time for the games I have now. But man, I appreciate the offer. Fantasy Grounds group, yeah. I'm loving playing on Fantasy Grounds right now. I'm learning it still. I only just recently switched over. I just got so tired of Roll20. Okay, so there's proficiencies representing skill in the area. So you can have a vocation at 0 without having it, while still having it. So I like that it makes the difference between having it at 0 and not having it at all. Then you've got your skills. Oh man, this is just so much. This looks a little bit more random than the last one. I think I'm gonna like this one less than the last one. You know what this reminds me of vaguely? Warhammer, where you've got vocations that have their own like internal skill system. So let's take a look at these skills right here. So you've got proficiencies in like defense. These are your basic proficiencies: defend, saves, initiative, light, medium, and heavy melee weapons, pole weapons, thrown weapons. These are your skills. And then you've got individual vocations that give you skill in everything associated with that particular vocation. And they've got a ton of vocations in here. Wow. This does remind me kind of Warhammer. I haven't played Warhammer that much, but I have looked at the system. I have looked at the vocation system in it, the profession system in it. This kind of reminds me of that. Traits or special qualities that define strengths and weaknesses. Some traits have prerequisites, so traits are like mini feats. Origins. Where does your character come from? So this is basically your race, is your origin. They call it origin to avoid race, but I noticed they've got racial traits up here. So I guess an attempt was made. Oh my god, I'm looking at it. You've got other attributes so these are like secondary attributes. It does use experience. They spend experience to improve. So it doesn't look like it's level based, but I'm not gonna nail that down just yet. So you've got pre-rolled stats for your stats. They got the various languages. Choose either luck or fate to guide your character. So you've got like 2 parallel systems, and I kind of like that. So you can decide whether your character is like a fated one or whether they are just like the universe is random and your character just does it. And they're both considered like comparative in this game. You can give initial characters additional experience to spend to improve themselves if you want to play a higher ranked game. That's cool. That's cool. Okay, creating a spellcaster. The price of magic and path of magic are both required traits. The price of magic is an inherent trait that must be selected at character creation. The price of magic represents the character's connection to the realms of magic and serves as the basic for creating a spellcaster. So that's like a price you pay for using magic, and it comes into a fault. It's not enough to make a character to not make. You also need a path of magic. So there's different paths of magic. They're in different spheres. So you is this like a free like an open magic system? I think it might be. Except the problem is I can't scroll down far enough because there's like a couple pictures that YouTube would disagree with. So advancement summary. Okay, so this is how you spend your experiences. You can raise your stats based on cost, just like in a number of other books that I've covered. Like in GURPS, like in other things. You can advance things based on a cost. I kind of do like those kinds of systems. I love my level-based systems, but I do like the purchase for cost as well. You can remove faults. That's good. Or you can learn spell arrays and spells. So you, just like anything else. I like this because it gives a... it has a beholder in it, which is not open gaming license. The core mechanic. So it's a 2d10 test. You add the stat. You add any bonuses from the applicable vocation or proficiency, and then you compare it to a difficulty, which they call DF instead of DC. If the total is less, you fail. You succeed if it's more. You succeed if it equals or more, and if you exceed it by 5, then you've earned a bump, which is like momentum in Modifius, I guess. Fail by 5 or more and receive a kink, an extra thing that goes awry and causes complications for you. Kinks will do that. Okay. A boon applies, add a die and drop the low die. If a flaw applies, add a die and drop the best. So it's almost advantage, but not quite. And I believe that's actually something that you can see in the 2d20 system as well. So... yeah, that did look like a familiar picture. I think this has a lot of like open... yeah, I think this has like a lot of open artwork in it. Because I was looking through and some of the artwork I've seen before. Yeah, this is very, very... This is a very... it uses 2d10, but it plays like 2d20. This is how you do your sample difficulties. Totally understandable. This is all very basic. Yeah. See, I would rather do that. They are like the word race only makes sense in it makes sense if you've read Tolkien and stuff, because they talk about it there. It's not supposed to be like that. I don't mind using species. Species describes them. They're drastically different species. But when you start using like origins, I don't mind using origins actually. But when you start using like ancestry and heritage, I gotta be honest, man. I've read like let's say stuff that these people are supposed to be like against by doing that. And when you start using stuff like ancestry and heritage to describe everything, you're basically like, you start sounding like like you need to be busting out the jackboots, man. I gotta be honest, man. That's why I don't like it. I don't even mind calling them species, because they're species. I mean, with the moderate exception in that if you've got orcs and half orcs, if you've got half orcs and half elves, that's technically this. I don't know if that counts as a different species because you can hybrid them. But close enough. Close enough. You don't have to be scientifically sound. Close enough. I'm old school, so I'm just gonna keep calling them races until the day I die. But and until the day I get banned off YouTube for calling them races. But I can see origin. I can see species. Just don't make me sound like I'm on freaking Stormfront, man. Cultures is another one. I don't mind that, but if they're cultures, they're not really like races. So you could have like a orc. One I reviewed a while back. Oh, I don't have it on my shelf because it was an ugly box. Nemesis RPG used cultures. You had both races and cultures, so you could be a half elf or not a half. It could be like an elf, and then a different culture that like stacked on top of it. And I liked that approach. So you could have like a species and then a culture, and I actually like that approach. And certain cultures could be on different species, because some of them live together. So you could have, like your elf and your human, and they could both be the same culture, and it would stack on top of them. I actually like that approach. It sounds a lot better than freaking Ancestry. Fuck. Oh, sorry, YouTube. There it goes. It's all over now. I dropped the F-bomb. I'm sorry. I'm trying to focus on this game, but it's so generic. It's like 400 pages of generic game. I would love to comment on this game more, but it is just 400 pages of generic game. And ordinarily, I don't mind that, because I like my plain ice cream. I like my standard, like, generic, slap some cheese between two slices of bread for a sandwich. I like my plain role-playing games. They're comfortable. A generic role-playing game that plays well, even if it's a completely different system, I like it. That's not saying it's a bad system, but it makes it hard to comment on. I'm like speed reading through this in addition to talking about random stuff, but it's just so generic. Oh my god. Oh yeah, man. Tell me about it. I like some of the artwork they've selected. I like the bump system and the flaw system. It just reminds me of 2D20, and the problem with that is that there's I prefer using books and stuff as well. I can't use printouts because I'm cheap, so I'm learning to use PDFs. There's just pages and pages of rules of how to interpret this. You got a botch, a kink, a failure, a success, a bump, and then a crit. I think I missed the rules for crit and botch, but I suspect it's just rolling like max or rolling min. If 2 dice used both come up with 10s, you may have succeeded with extraordinary results. In case your character succeeds in a fashion that can be described as nothing less than spectacular, the result is a crit. So max on both. Botch is got to be both of the dice used for the test come up as 1s. So I called it, didn't I? 2 1s, 2 10s. 2 1s are a botch, 2 10s are a success. It's a generic role-playing game system. Not much to comment on. I do like the bump kink system. No retries, let it ride. This is all stuff that could have been pulled from any role-playing game system. Changing circumstances let you retry, but it's not really a retry. It's like a second test on the same thing. Yeah, I don't mind, man. I'd do the same thing if it was like a small one. But this is 400 pages, man. my printer would animate, and it would get up, and it would beat me into a pulp if I tried to print 400 pages of PDF. Like, my printer would become like Skynet afterwards. It'd be like the world has ended, and the cause was because the RPG crawler tried to print out 400 pages of a generic role-playing game. Extended tests, you total up the successes you make. So pretty much, I will say that this varies. This is not generic, because usually when you deal with extended tests, you're looking to accrue successes. This one totals the number that you get from successes. So it's a little bit different in that. Congratulations, Tales of the Elder Days. Tales of the Elder Days. You have successfully migrated from extremely generic to only slightly generic. That's a plus. That's a plus. I'm beginning to see why this is 3 stars. Yeah, this is 3. Yeah, this is a good solid 3 to 3.5. I'd say 3.5 so far. It's a like if I was grading a test, this would be a 70%, maybe a 75%. It'd be a passing grade. It is acceptable. I'm sorry, I'm not commenting more on it, but it's just going over this. It's got a high degree of internal consistency. I will give it that. They just bumped it up to a 3.5 because I love systems with a high degree of internal consistency, and this is nothing if not internally consistent. Yeah, the PDF. That's when you find out whether or not. Yeah, that's when you find out whether it's worth it. This is. I wouldn't print this. I wouldn't run this. But if I mean that's kind of harsh. That's kind of harsh. I might run. I would run this if I had enough free time. Let's say I wasn't an old man. Let's say I was back in high school or whatever, and I was able to play every single day all the time like I used to. Then maybe I would run this system. Change a die to a 9. So you can use fate to do what you use fate in other things. You can use it to decrease a fumble, to take an extra action, to reduce damage, to keep you from dying. I love fate systems that do that. Even though I'm kind of a hardcore like GM in things, I do like the ability to not die in systems. It gets you to roll another d10 or re-roll all the dice. Yeah, so these are basic fate and luck things that you could use in anything. When to make tests, saves, rules for saving throws. Let me guess. They're going to use the botch, kink, fail, success rules. Okay, I've said it. All right. You make you make a save versus particular things. It doesn't tell you what. So here it is. Saves are generally the same as other tests. There it is. They're just based on might rather than, or they're based on your basic attributes rather than your skills. Okay, so that may be a little bit different. You can, there's teamwork rules. So when the primary helpers, each helper makes their own test, and for each helper that earns a success, the primary will receive a boon towards their main test. So you don't directly impact them, but you give them a higher chance of making their own. So that's not too bad. This is all very generic. On the plus side, you won't need your 6 tables of stuff. It doesn't look like you'll need your 6 tables of stuff. This uses standard rounds and initiative. Do you roll it each time? Let me look at initiative. Initiative determines the order of the combatants' actions. When combat begins, you roll it. Once everybody's initiative total is determined, the first round of combat begins. This is the set initiative order for the entire battle. Generic. This is so average. They do have surprise rules. You get free actions, move actions, and attack actions, and full round actions. So it's basically like it's D&D with a different engine. Improvising and actions. Movement, 5-foot increments. A 5-foot step, there you go. Boom, as a free action. Difficult terrain, slowed movement. The dash action allows you to spend a full round action to move either 3 or 4 times your speed. That's different. Dash in D&D only lets you move 2 times your speed. Hey, there's two non-generic things. Although I take that back because the run action is also a full round action in old school D&D, and that does 3 or 4 times. So, oh well. So you get to run instead of just double it. You make a test, overcome a defense score. A successful hit delivers damage that is deducted from the target's health score. Oh, generic. Come on, give me... I'm going to scroll down here real quick. Free attacks. In the heat of battle, if you shift your focus away, basically attacks of opportunity by a different name. They're extra attacks that break the normal flow of combat. Oh my god. Grappling. And it's just as complex as you would expect. Hold on, where is it? There you go. You can crush and grapple. Multiple grapplers. Damage. Now here's where it's different. Successful attacks deal damage based on the weapon used. Unarmed and grappled, and they're reduced from the health score. Don't forget the boons may be applied, etc., etc. What is this? Oh, this is your negative health. So, I guess this tells you your status based on how negative your hit points are, and you don't die until -12. That's a little bit different, and see, here we go. This gives you the stats at each level. So they've got a more scaled range of dying in this one, so that's good. And then it looks like spirit damage and mental damage looks like it's the same, I think. You take a 15-minute breather to catch your breath. There's your short rest mechanic. Oh no, they don't. They've got different. Heal half the damage taken in this battle. So they do, so that does mitigate it more, so it's easier to recover. Excuse me, I'm sorry about that. Got the hiccups. Oh look, hot elf chick. Recovering stat damage. Conditions, these are standard conditions from any tabletop game. Oh my god, this is like somebody decided to make D&D, or it's like somebody decided to make a fantasy role-playing game that wasn't D&D, and then thought, how do we make it as close to being as close to D&D as possible without it being D&D? They succeeded, I guess. I mean, it's not D&D. It just feels like it. I'm not even reading this, man. I'm not even reading this out loud. I'm just browsing it. Dual wielding summary that could be taken almost verbatim from like a 2nd edition dual wielding table. Except there is a dual warrior, which I guess is like a improved version of dual wielder. They got mounted combat rules. I love me some mounted combat rules. But again, yeah, it's very basic. When fighting from a mount versus an individual on foot, you may claim a +1 bonus to melee attacks. I saw an interesting thing, and I can't remember who I saw it on, but he's got like this historical combat channel. Not Scalagrim. Let me take a look. Oh god, he used to be a CEO of a gaming company, and now he makes historical videos on YouTube. And he's in Britain, and he's got like his own ranch with like war horses and such. I don't know what it's called, and it would take me forever to look up. Let me take a look real quick. Oh no. Okay, no. Apparently I can't just search for what I had. No, not Lindy Page. I love Lindy Page, but no, not him. No, this dude's kind of like a. I gotta admit, he's kind of a jackass, but he does all of these like hands-on. He's like It's like something historian, medieval something or whatever, and he does these hands-on examinations of stuff. And he did this whole thing where he got on a warhorse, and they looked up different combat stances from different. From no, not Lindy Page. No, not Lindy Page. It's on the tip of my tongue, and I'm gonna get really. I'm gonna look it up. He's got long hair. He does have long hair. No. Oh my god. Modern History TV. Boom, there it is. And he got together with this other dude, and they did these Modern History TV. It's really interesting stuff, by the way. I do recommend you look at it. It's not quite as interesting as Lindy Page, as Scalagrim, as any number of other ones. Shadowversities, but he is interesting because he like actually gets things out. Yeah, he was looking at. He had somebody with him who was a medieval martial artist scholar, and they were looking at the text, and they actually tried it out. Yeah, 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 and they actually tried this stuff out, and he was like doing mounted combat, and it turns out it's actually easier to parry if you're on foot. So it kind of blew my mind. You always think it's easier to hit somebody when you're on the horse, and apparently it's not, because the horse's first inclination, even if it's a war horse, is to avoid the guy. And so what if you're on foot and if you're on foot and you don't know what you're doing, it's easier to hit you. If you're on foot and you do know what you're doing, it's apparently really easy to just completely disregard anything a mounted combatant would do. So every time I see this mounted actions give you a +1 bonus on melee attacks now, I'm kind of like this when I saw that, because it's apparently really easy. And then I looked into trying. I'm not trying it with a warhorse because I don't have a horse, but I was looking at the physics of it, and yeah, apparently it's really easy, because all you do is you step in, and the horse's inclination is to not step on you. And then at that point, you're in a position where you can just knock it away. So basically, you got to like put them on the table and step into the attack, and it apparently works almost every time. But if you're trying to run away, then yeah, I guess it's easier. I'm not going to take it as gospel. It's just it looked like the kind of thing on it. So yeah, this is a very generic system. I'm going to have to wrap up here. I'm gonna wrap up here. It's a generic system. It's got rules for drinking and drugs and hazards and all that. Yeah, this is a very generic. I wanted to look at the magic, but I'm not going to do it. This is just so generic that I feel like I'm going to fall asleep if I go through it anymore. Yeah. Anyway, it's Tales of the Elder Days if you want to check it out. I'm going to wrap it up here. This has been going on for a while. How long have I been streaming? How long have I been streaming? I have been streaming for 2.5 hours. I appreciate everybody who's watched. I encourage you to go check out some of my reviews if you haven't already. As for my channel, I finished up Icewind Dale 2. If you're interested in that, I will be putting the last few episodes up as I put other things up. I will get Indie Game Friday out tomorrow. I will be taking a look. I'll probably be doing a roguelike tomorrow. It depends. I got to go get my truck fixed, so it depends on how much time I've got to take a look at it. I may be doing a roguelike tomorrow for my Indie Game Friday. And I will try to get a review of Adventure Conquer King system up pretty soon. I'm still putting it together. It's going to be at least a week. And I will be getting stuff up. Thank you for watching. If you like these things, I'm going to try and do them every couple weeks. I basically every time I do my RPG News Roundup, if I see something that's interesting, that's pay what you want /free, I go ahead and toss it into a folder, and then when I've got enough to make like 2 hours of streaming, then I go through them. And as always, I'll put links in the description or in a post probably afterwards for people who watch it later. Thank you for continued watching. Until next time, take care and goodbye.